Good evening, everybody. It's about 9 o'clock on Monday night, and I just wanted to get a little video update out to you. Thank you so much for participating with us yesterday in the program for the church. We had a number of people from Hiawatha Bible Church as well. We are doing here just really an update for Fellowship Bible Ann Arbor, but we thank you for those from Hiawatha and elsewhere. We had some folks from Texas watching. We also had some folks from Florida watching as well. So thank you for all of that. And also a word of thanks to those who helped support the ministry yesterday, Jansen and Kaylee from their place. Also our treasurer, Dwayne, and I think Deacon Carnes as well helped us out by going to the church and doing a couple of necessary things there. Brother Mike and I had to visit the church this afternoon to attend to an issue on the boiler that was misbehaving, so we've got that kind of settled for the moment anyway. I think we're not quite going to be done with that, but we'll have some more to touch on there. Greetings, good evening. I trust that you're doing well, you and your family, in these odd days in which we find ourselves. I just wanted to share with you a verse from Scripture tonight, and just to be an encouragement and a kind of a reminder to us about the purpose of God. And that verse is in Ephesians 1:11. And that verse says, I'm reading from the New King James over here on my desk, it says, "In him also we have obtained an inheritance." Remember that verse from yesterday we looked at in 1 Corinthians chapter 3. "Being predestined according to the purpose of him who," and here's the phrase I was focusing on for our purpose tonight, "who," it says, "works all things according to the counsel of his will." That phrase, all things, is comprehensive. It means that God works all things, whether enjoyable things, good things, or bad things, calamitous things. He works all things together for the purpose of him, and to carry that purpose out according to the counsel of his own will. Of course, we know some other passages that talk about all things, like Romans 8:28. But for now, just we're focusing our attention on this idea that he plans all things, he decrees all things, he brings all things to their intended end, he guides all things, but he works them out according to the counsel of his own will. So that means that the situation that we're in, individually, holed up in our houses or working remotely or having special things we have to do, or nationally or internationally, God is working these things out according to the counsel of his own will. He has desired for this to come to pass for some reason. He's allowed it to come to pass. He's decreed or permitted, and we don't know, like Job, whether there's some thing going on here behind the scenes with the devil. We just don't know that, but we do know that God is working all these things according to the counsel of his own will, and that tells us that this is something that's well under his control. And since we are believers in him, we can trust him in his wise and kind and merciful purpose to just carry us through all of this in the way that he sees fit. It may be, through very difficult waters for some of us. It may be just inconvenience of some of these things for others of us. We just don't know. But let me just read that again. It's, "In him also we have obtained an inheritance, being predestined according to the purpose of him who works all things according to the counsel of his will." And just encourage you with that this evening. On kind of extra biblical information here outside the scriptures, it looks like the data that is coming in and the modeling predictions, the conservative modeling predictions that are being made, are indicating that we're going to have to stay in the current state that we're in, kind of quarantined, distancing ourselves from others in society for quite some time. And it sounds like a number of weeks anyway. So our initial hope to have just these 2 weeks and be done with this is far too short. And my hope of being able to have a meeting together with you on Easter is pretty much shot. I mean, it's certainly possible. God can arrange things so that there's a massive change. I don't believe that that's necessarily going to be the case. So, what do we do then? Well, it looks like what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say for myself and for us as a church family that we're just going to go with the next 2 weeks, kind of take this in 2-week chunks at a time, not overwhelm ourselves, and just say, okay, for the next couple of Sundays again, we're going to have to do this remote thing, and just try to improve upon that, see what we can do with it. We'll take kind of little steps, baby steps in this. We've made some progress already, as I hope you've been able to see. And we're going to have a special music number from somebody that's going to be able to record themselves playing the piano, and so that's going to be wonderful to have kind of a fresh new thing this weekend, Lord willing. And we'll see what else eventuates in these next days. But looks like that's what we'll be doing. As I mentioned, I stopped over at the church today to do a couple things, pick up a couple of needful items, and to attend to a matter with the heating system. Everything there is fine. It's just shut down, quiet. Not a lot going on there. It seems kind of strange, but it is. It is what it is. So next 2 weeks, pretty much plan on the church being closed again, so that we might be faithful to follow the kind of not the letter of the law, but the spirit of it, so to speak. It's not really that it's technically a law for God's people in the sense of for the church, having this kind of separation of church and state, but we don't want to be unwise. We don't want to cause offense. We certainly don't want to gather a huge crowd like some attempted to do this past weekend in defiance of the advice. We just don't want to be defiant of that advice. Now, of course, if this stretches on and on and on and on, we're going to have to put our foot down and say, church is essential. Meeting with God's people is essential because God has commanded it. Hebrews chapter 10, 24, and 25, among other things. There is just no way that we can persist in this kind of online state forever. So we've said that before. I'll keep reminding ourselves of that. But we're going to make the best of it as we can. And I was thinking of this last night. We do say, and I trust we really believe, that we are pro-life when we speak about the inception of life and babies in the womb. And just as much as we're pro-life in that sense, maybe theoretically even, because we don't have to deal with abortion directly, or we don't picket abortion mills, as they're called, Planned Parenthoods and things like that. This is a test of whether we're going to put our pro-life money where our mouth is. That is, do we really believe that it's important to save lives, especially of our elders, those with the gray hair who we respect, and some who are younger yet. We've mentioned one of our families, both husband and wife, are afflicted by something that looks suspiciously like this COVID-19 virus, even though they haven't been officially diagnosed that way. And at least the husband has not been able to be tested because he doesn't qualify for a test for some reason, which mystifies me, frankly. But we just have to deal with it. We're dealt this situation, and we have to just address it as it comes to us, and not complain too much about it. So, kind of backing up and looking again at what our meetings are this week. We are going to do the Wednesday night prayer meeting as we have done before with teleconference call. We may do the teaching part by live stream on YouTube. To be a help to those that have an issue with the minutes on their phone. And also, it is engaging. It can be with the Bible text there and a good method of using the technology for teaching. And then also on Saturday morning, the same thing. And men's prayer meeting is kind of open its doors here to everybody in the church, and we encourage you to participate. It's cheap, it's easy. The time commitment is very small. The profit is very large. And I'll just give you kind of a little insight into my thinking, at least. We have had times when we've had meetings that have been very small, very low attendance, and some people have even said, "Look, why don't you just go to one men's meeting a month, or just cancel it altogether?" And it's tempting. It is tempting sometimes to think that way, but my commitment is that we need to continue on doing the kinds of ministries that we have been doing as best we can, as much as possible, to offer all those opportunities for corporate worship, corporate Bible instruction, corporate prayer, and fellowship. Which, by the way, I really appreciated the Zoom video conference on Sunday between services and after morning service. That was a real encouragement to me, just to see some of you folks, and I hope more will participate next Sunday. So pardon me, this is a live stream, so I have whatever live interruptions come into the office. So I'm going to turn that one down and pick that up at a later time. So just finally, again to mention, Saturday or Wednesday night, 6:30 p.m., and then Saturday morning, 8 a.m., we're just going to continue on doing those, and trust the Lord will bless those times. Really, we don't take a vacation. God doesn't take a vacation. There's no summer vacation from the things of God. We're just going to press on and be faithful in that regard. I'm very glad to have the help of the deacons and also Brother Jansen as he participates with us. And so that's what we'll do. So we'll see you folks on Wednesday night by way of teleconference call, and also Saturday morning. And I may arrange another video conference call for us sometime later in this week, either Tuesday night, Thursday, or Friday, just so we can have a little fellowship time together. And some of you that haven't got on Zoom yet, maybe practice that skill before Sunday so that you can use it then as well. So, by the way, also in the church WhatsApp group, I did send a note to you that I'm just looking at now about the COVID-19 forecasts. I think that's an important read, especially if you're interested in scientific things at all. That's a summary. It links to a couple of papers with greater detail and graphs. But that represents the kind of a model and thinking of what our current government officials are currently looking at. And so it gives you a little bit of insight. Whether you agree or disagree, I know there's this kind of side of things that's very worried about how things could turn out terribly and just be an apocalyptic scenario. And then there's people on the other side that think it's a conspiracy. And I can comment on that on another occasion. It's not my purpose here, but really just wanted to give you an update and touch base with you. I look forward to seeing you all at some point. I was delighted to see some of you having the church service kind of casted up onto your large screen TV, and I saw little Chloe watching the TV with great interest in a picture, and Dwayne sent a picture of us on the big screen, which is a little disconcerting, frankly, but there we were. So in any case, have a good evening. The Lord give you rest, and we will talk to you again soon. God bless you now. There we were. So, in any case, have a